They laughed when the voice first broke through the static, a dry, eerie echo that threaded itself between the ship's hums. Laughter is easier than fear, after all. But Captain Elara Knox didn't laugh. She froze, her hand hovering above the console, eyes narrowing as the distortion curled into something too deliberate to be random. Asterisk, do you hear us now? Asterisk, the sound whispered. The bridge went still. Even the constant chatter of the navigation system seemed to dim, as though the ship itself was listening. The Halcyon wasn't built for ghost hunts. She was a long-range survey craft, meant to plot safer lanes through the outer reaches, where pirate activity and gravitational storms kept most traders away. The crew of 15 was a mix of star-hungry recruits and weary veterans who had signed on for hazard pay. Elara led them with a mixture of dry humor and steel-edged command. She had grown used to the silence of deep space, the endless black broken only by the thrum of engines. But tonight, that silence was filled with something else. Voices that were not supposed to exist. They mocked the forgotten voice. The whisper came again, louder, clearer, laced with a sharpness that felt like glass shards in the ear. Ensign Miro flinched, clutching his headset. His freckles stood out stark against his pale face. "Captain, this isn't interference. It's—" His voice cracked. It's speaking to me." "Stay calm, Ensign," Elara said. Calm was her weapon, her armor. In a ship full of jittery nerves, one person had to keep steady hands. She flicked a switch on the console. "Signal analysis. Lieutenant Joran, tell me where it's coming from." The first officer's jaw worked as he scanned the readouts. Joran had been with her for 3 tours. Loyal, pragmatic, always the skeptic when Elara's instincts leaned toward the strange. "Coordinates locked," he said finally. "Planet below us. Dead world. Serephon-IV. Captain, I don't like this." No one liked Serephon-IV. A century ago, the colonies had fallen silent, swallowed by a war no one wanted to talk about. Traders claimed the ruins whispered at passing ships. Most dismissed it as radiation storms and overactive imaginations. Elara herself had joked about it more than once. Now the joke rang hollow. She leaned closer to the console as another wave of whispers flooded the calm, the tones layered into a sound like weeping, then into a phrase again. Asterisk, you left us to die. You laughed as we burned. Asterisk, the words scraped across her skull. Elara's throat went dry. The crew shifted, muttering. Fear had a way of spreading faster than any plague. If she pulled back now, she'd confirm their terror. But if she pressed forward, she might be leading them into something far worse. She drew a breath, set us down near the source of that signal. Joran turned on her sharply. You can't be serious. I am, she said. If there's someone, or something, still alive down there, then we owe it to them to listen. We don't get to be the kind of people who walk away because it's easier. The ship shuddered as it entered atmosphere, flames licking across the viewports. The ruins below gleamed faintly, as though the bones of the planet were remembering the fire that had ended them. The whispers built into a crescendo, distinct voices layering into a single, terrible harmony. And in the middle of it, clear as a bell, came a voice that chilled Elara's blood. Asterisk, you cannot silence an echo. Asterisk. The voice reverberated long after the transmission ceased, echoing through the ruined towers like a dirge sung by the dead. The crew of the Halcyon staggered as if the words themselves carried weight, pressing on their chests and coiling around their minds. Elara forced her breathing steady, but even she couldn't ignore the chill that crawled beneath her skin. Whatever had spoken wasn't a random signal. It had intent, memory, and rage. Systems are flickering, Captain, said Terran, the ship's engineer, as the deck lights pulsed in time with the dissonant chorus. I've never seen interference bleed into our core like this. It's rewriting the diagnostics as if the ship itself is trying to talk. Or something's trying to use it to talk through us. muttered Joran, his hand hovering near his weapon again. Elara studied the shattered city outside the viewport. Each monolith seemed to hum, glowing faintly with inscriptions that pulsed in rhythm with the whispers. It wasn't random noise. It was a message, a story being forced into the fabric of the air itself. She felt the pull in her chest, not just sound but grief pressing down. The crew wanted answers. "Captain," Moreau said, his voice brittle. "They said we laughed as they burned, but humanity never colonized Serephon-IV, not officially. Why would they think it was us?" Elara's mind raced. History records were incomplete, often rewritten by corporations that preferred to forget their failures. Had some rogue fleet carried out a purge here a century ago? Or worse, had humanity destroyed something they didn't understand? The whispers grew sharper, laced with fragments of language that coalesced into images. Elara saw flickers of beings made of light, their voices weaving together into symphonies that shaped cities out of stone and air. Then came the attack. Ships in orbit, beams slicing down, towers collapsing, luminous forms dissolving into ash. Her stomach clenched. She could feel their agony, as if it were her own. "Shut it out!" Joran barked, slamming a control to cut the comm feed. The bridge fell silent, save for the crew's ragged breathing. But the silence was worse. The echoes hadn't stopped. They had only burrowed deeper. In the quiet, each crew member now heard them inside their skulls, as though the dead had crawled beneath their skin. One of the rookies shouted, "They're in my head." He ripped off his comm headset, but the whispering persisted. His voice cracked into a sob. "Make it stop." Elara clenched her fists. "They're not in your head," she said, though her own ears still rang. "They're in the stone. They're in the air. Maybe even in the light itself. This planet isn't dead. It's remembering. Or it's hunting." Joran shot back. "We need to leave before it pulls us apart too." The floor lurched under them again, as if the planet were waking from a long, vengeful sleep. Dust cascaded from the ruined ceiling, and the hum became a resonant vibration that rattled their teeth. The whisper returned, louder now, filled with fury and grief. Asterisk, "You will answer us, or you will join our echo." Asterisk. The ground split wider, the molten glow beneath the cracked city bathing the ruins in a hellish light. The crew scrambled for balance, hands gripping shattered pillars, weapons raised against an enemy that hadn't yet shown its full form. The luminous figure drifted closer, her outline wavering like fire seen through water. Every step she took sent another wave of whispers into their skulls. Some were pleas for help. Others were accusations. All of them were unbearable. Elara stood her ground. "I am Captain Elara Knox of the Halcyon. We came seeking understanding, not to mock you." She forced her voice to stay firm, though her chest ached under the crushing presence of the entity. The figure tilted her head. "Words. Always words. That was how you justified our burning. Promises. Lies. Echoes." The last word stretched, repeating in the ears of every crew member. "Echo, echo, echo." Moreau collapsed, curling into himself. His eyes glazed as if he were seeing memories that weren't his own. Another crewman, Sarah, staggered toward the ramp, muttering names under her breath. Elara knew they had to act, or she'd lose them one by one. "Stay with me," Elara ordered. She unclipped her comm link, set it to broadcast, and pressed it against one of the glowing stone pillars. "If this world remembers, then show me all of it. Not just the screams. Show me the truth." The figure flickered, uncertain. The whispers quieted, then surged into a single voice that filled the ruined square. The crew clutched their heads as visions seared across their minds. Elara grit her teeth and forced herself to watch. The symphony of the luminous beings returned, this time clearer. They had once woven their songs into the stone, shaping entire cities with their harmonics. They had welcomed humans who came with gifts and promises. But the alliance fractured when greed over the planet's rare crystals boiled into violence. Human warships rained fire, silencing the singers. The last survivors poured their voices into the stone, leaving behind a memory that would never fade, a curse etched into the planet's bones. Elara's chest tightened until she could hardly breathe. Humanity had done this. Not her crew, but her kind. She swallowed hard. "You deserved better," she said softly, speaking into the calm. "You deserved to be remembered as more than ghosts." The figure's glow flickered. "Words," she whispered again, but now the echo trembled with something like doubt. Joran pulled Elara back. "Captain, we're being pulled into the fissure." The ground beneath the Halcyon was shifting, drawing the ship toward a chasm filled with molten light. Systems screamed warnings, alarms blaring. The crew scrambled to secure the ship, but the pull only grew stronger. Elara steadied herself. If the entity was memory made flesh, perhaps it wasn't pulling them. It was testing them. "If you can hear me," she said, her voice raised over the roar, "then listen. Not all humans are your enemies. If we can't change what was done, let us carry your voice forward. Don't make us part of your grave." For a heartbeat, everything froze. The pull stopped. The glowing figure hovered inches away from her, fractured face shimmering with sorrow and fury. Then, with a scream that shook the marrow of their bones, the echo surged into the sky, coiling around the twin moons like a storm. The air burned white. The crew braced themselves, weapons raised and eyes wide. The moment of truth had arrived, and Elara knew the forgotten voice was done whispering. It was ready to be heard, or to destroy them all. The white glare consumed everything. For an instant, Elara thought it was the end. The ship torn apart, her crew scattered into the molten abyss. But then the light shifted, softening into something less like fire and more like dawn. The howling voices resolved into a single, mournful melody, clear and beautiful. It wrapped around them like a tide, and Elara felt her knees buckle as centuries of grief flowed through her. She saw it all again. The luminous beings singing their architecture into existence, harmonizing their lives with the pulse of their world. She felt their joy in creation, their sorrow as the skies rained destruction. She felt the betrayal, sharp as broken glass, when humans turned from allies to executioners for the sake of crystal wealth. Their final moments were a chorus of despair that the stones had carried ever since. Elara bowed her head. "You're right. My kind failed you. But that doesn't mean we can't change." She placed her palm against the glowing pillar, the heat biting at her skin. "If you need your story told, let us do it. Not as mockery, as truth." The figure loomed over her, eyes blazing. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I stayed," Elara said simply. "When my crew wanted to run, I stayed. Because I hear you, and I won't forget." There was a long silence. The light flickered between anger and sorrow, then softened into something else. The figure reached out, her fractured hand brushing Elara's temple. Instead of pain, a warmth bloomed inside her skull. 1,000 voices poured into her mind, not as screams, but as songs, each one distinct, each a memory of joy, loss, and love. They filled her with weight and light all at once. Behind her, the crew straightened, the tension in their bodies easing as the oppressive pressure lifted. The fissure beneath the Halcyon sealed with a final sigh of steam. The world quieted, leaving only the low hum of the ship's engines and the aftertaste of music in the air. The luminous figure's outline began to dissolve, threads of light unraveling and weaving themselves back into the ruined stone. Her voice, softer now, brushed against Elara's mind one last time. "Then carry us. Do not let them laugh again." And she was gone. The ruins dimmed, the whispers fading into silence. But inside Elara's chest, the song remained. "Captain?" Joran asked quietly, holstering his weapon. Elara straightened, her hands still tingling. "Prepare the recorders. Every word they gave us, we'll carry it to the council, to every colony, every station. The forgotten will be forgotten no longer." Miro blinked at her, his face pale but steady. "You mean we'll tell their story?" She nodded. "We'll echo it until the stars themselves know their names." The halcyon lifted from the ruins, carrying the voices of the lost into the dark. Elara stared at the fading planet below, its broken towers now silent monuments, and felt the strange weight in her chest transform into a vow. In the end, the forgotten voice was not a curse but a plea. Remember us. And in remembering, honor what was destroyed. Sometimes the greatest strength is not in conquest, but in refusing to let silence erase the truth. That was the lesson Elara carried into the stars. The echo of the forgotten, alive again through those who dared to listen.